I want you to now start folding in your conscious recollection of contact with non-human intelligence.
When I was about 10 months old, I remember I was supposed to be taking a nap and I didn't do well with that. And I had levelers, those metal ones back in the 50s, and I was looking at them and then suddenly there's this huge bright light coming through them and I'm like, wow, look at that. And the next thing I know, I'm levitating up in my crib. So I was having serious memories of things happening to me. My father has a learning disability, big one, and he never went to college. He taught himself everything he knows. That's phenomenal. And the military realized it. So they started putting him in charge of very interesting things that I don't know a whole lot about, but was sensitive. And he started working for NASA on the space shuttle project. It was long before it launched, but they were working on it, developing it, and he became part of that. So that's what was going on. Then he's got this kid who's developing abilities that nobody understands. One of the things that they realize is that I'm psychic and I can hear you think. I'm like, what is that? And I'm staring at it, memorizing it inch by inch by inch until I got to the top of it. And I realized there's 2 ports and there's a person in each side, each port looking me dead in the eye. And I realized, oh my God, they see me. And I freaked out and I was going to dive under my bed. And that's when the light hit me hard.
Right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Higher Journeys. I am, of course, your host, Alexis Brooks, and I am delighted to be back after a week or so off. I got a good excuse. I got a good reason. I'm going to tell you a little later. Can't tell you right now, but I'm back nonetheless. And I'm back with another new guest. So excited. Her name is Dolly Saffron. And she is a first-time guest, although, Dolly, you and I have had a couple of pretty in-depth chats leading up to this first time you're here. Dolly, you've got a lot to share with our audience, and I know it's deep and moving to you still as you recount the story of your journey into what we call the abduction phenomenon. Some people call it the abduction syndrome, the experience. It's changed your life. You've had quite a ride, a sojourn. So I'm going to ask you first. Let you say whatever you need to say. Welcome, Dolly.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. This is exciting for me. My knowledge of you is through Preston, but we've had some chats before now, and I'm really thrilled that you asked me to come on. Thank you.
And I'm thrilled you're here. Preston Annette, everyone, is a dear friend, a dear friend. I'm going to say of mine at this point, but a dear friend of Dolly's as well. They're like thick as thieves, right?
Yeah, partners, actually. Yeah.
Partners, absolutely. That's good stuff. Well, Dolly, your story has been told before. I don't know how many people have heard it. I think there's space for a lot more to understand the dynamic that is yours, your sojourns into the UFO and alien abduction phenomenon. Speaking of Preston, this story of yours culminated in a book called Symmetry, a true UFO adventure, a true UFO adventure. I think the only place to start is at the beginning. I want you to tell your story. I want you to take your time. I may come in on occasion with a couple of questions, but please bring people into the fold as to what Dolly Saffron's story is all about.
My story begins before I began with my parents. My father was, at the time of my birth, an airborne ranger. He grew up in Wisconsin on a dairy farm. He lived in Chicago as well, back and forth. Seasonally they went back and forth. And he was a kid who had contact. I didn't know about it until I was much older. He joined the military at the age of 17 and stopped high school for that. And when he got to the Army, they wanted him to go to OCS, and that meant he had to get his diploma. And they encouraged him to go by mail to his high school, Crane Tech in Chicago. And he did, and he just took all the tests and he passed them. Smart boy. During his career, he had contact as well, and just kept it to himself. He married my mother in 1952. She is a Crockett. I am a generational Crockett, and that means that David Crockett is my fifth great grandfather. She has a huge family. There are others in my family that I'm related to through my mother as well. And she couldn't have babies. She had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And the military decided, in their wisdom or not, to irradiate her ovaries and her pituitary gland in 3 large doses of Redkin radiation, cobalt. They told her, don't get pregnant until after it's over with for a year. And 2 weeks after her 3rd treatment, she unfortunately got pregnant with me. This freaked everybody out. Everybody was kind of terrified. All my aunts, my mother has 6 sisters and 1 brother, were in the waiting room waiting to see what was going to happen. They were terrified how I would turn out. Her pregnancy was strange. She had to be put to bed a couple of times because of bleeding suddenly out of nowhere. When I was born, right almost at the due date. I was 2 days short of my due date. And my mother was very large. She looked like she had twins. Everybody commented about it. When I was born, my mother was given scopolamine and other drugs to knock her out because she was not built for having babies, and they were going to be using forceps to pull me through, and it was not a good situation. I folded in half because when her water broke, I folded in half, butt first. And when they brought me out and the placenta delivered, they realized that I was a twin. And where the heck was my twin? There were 2 umbilical cords. One was the other baby missing at the time. That's what I was told. I didn't find this out till I was 18, and she gave me all the paperwork on it. It bothered her a lot. It bothered everybody. Nobody understood how the heck that happened. That's the first and weird thing of my life. The second one is that about within 4 weeks of my birth, my father was being transferred to Florida from Columbus, Fort Benning. And so they put me in the car and we drove to Miami. And we lived in an apartment high-rise on Biscayne Bay, right in Miami off of Biscayne Bay. It was a beautiful bay. And when I was about 10 months old, I remember I was supposed to be taking a nap, and I didn't do well at that. And I had levelers, those metal ones back in the 50s, and I was looking at them, and then suddenly there's this huge bright light coming through them, and I'm like, wow, look at that, And my poor 10-month-old brain is trying to figure this out. What is this? That's all I could think. What is this? And the next thing I know, I'm levitating up in my crib. And when I got to the top of the rails, I freaked out and I flipped. I literally swam it over, and I tried to grab on to hold on, and then I go blank, and I don't remember anything after that. My memories were not cohesive. In other words, I was having serious memories of things happening to me. I was also experiencing abilities that I thought were cool and normal, and apparently nobody was reacting to it the way I was reacting to it.
Like what? What kind of abilities, Dolly?
When I was about two and a half, my mom was pregnant again with my brother, and she wanted to play hide and seek with me. We were having a good time, and I thought, okay, this is going to be great. I can hide well. I'm a very smart kid, by the way. I was walking at 8 months, and by 10 months, I could talk in full sentences. I had a Minnie Mouse voice. It was really weird. And I kept looking in the top of the closet. In Florida, they have the doors like this, and they're levered. And then up top, they have 2 more shorter ones that are levered. And I was like looking at, that's the best place to hide. I'm going to go up there. And I'm thinking, how do I do this? And I was like, oh, I just need to go up there. I just need to go up there. And the next thing I know, I'm going up there. I literally lifted off the ground into that door. And I pulled myself in. When I got in, I shut the door quietly, and I was laughing and giggling. She could hear me because I thought I'm so smart, right? And she spent an hour looking for me and then realized where I was. She got a chair. She went up there and slid the door open, and there I am. She freaked the hell out and she called my dad. There was physically no way for me to have gotten up there. There was no wall nearby that I could have scooched up, skimmy to. I was 2.5 years old. How was I going to do this? There was nothing in the closet in front of me that I could climb up on or grab on or anything. That freaked her out. She's very pregnant and she freaked out. Within
With your brother, was this with your brother? Pregnant with your brother at the time?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's
Okay.
summertime too, and it's hot as hell in Miami. Okay. So then a couple months later, I disappear out of the house. It's supposed to be nap time again. It's always nap time with me. And she came in to check on me, and I'm gone. Now, this is a house that's locked, chains, all the windows are locked. They couldn't figure out how I got out. They called the police. They had to bring my dad home. They put her in a police car, pregnant in the heat with a bullhorn, calling me, driving through the neighborhoods. They had an APB out on me, Bolo, okay? And about, I don't know, 45 minutes into this escapade, the phone rang and my dad was at home waiting, and they called him and said, they know where she is. This is where she is. You go meet him there. What had happened is they called the police car and said a guy at a U-Totem called in a 2.5-year-old on the loose and no parents. And what happened is, what I remember about this is that I got picked up and taken to the U-Totem behind it in Miami, out in the middle of nowhere where we lived, and dropped off behind the store. And they told me, go inside and they'll give you a balloon. I remember this. When I got to the doors, I was in my bare feet and underwear. That's how I took my naps. Okay. So I'm like, it's hot. I'm trying to get in this building. And there wasn't anybody in the parking lot. And the door was too heavy and it was too small. And I was banging on it, freaking out. And the guy inside saw me and came running. He got me and he brought me in and he sat me on the counter. And he's like, who are you? What's your name? Blah, blah, blah. I'm really upset because this guy's not giving me the balloon I was supposed to get. I remember this. I was mad at that point. And I started screaming and crying at him, blah. And he called the police. Well, they brought my mother to the store. My dad met him. And I was so upset and freaked out that I was not going to tell them how I got there. Just that, where the hell is my balloon that I got promised? They didn't have DVACs in those days, but they had, people who come in, police called in public, health services, and they had two people questioning my parents because they thought maybe my mom was losing her mind and she put me somewhere and I walked in there. But all the neighbors said I was at home with my mother. Nobody saw my mother leave with me or anything like that. It took them hours. I was sitting in a cop car the whole time away from my parents. They finally realized that they couldn't figure out how I got up, but it wasn't my parents that did it. My dad was all the way across town. You know what I'm saying? There was no way my parents did this to me. So they released me back to my mom and dad. Well, that triggered a bonfire of activity for my family. They got a police dog, a retired police dog to guard me. They redid all the locks, put locks on the windows and doors. Things changed. My grandparents were moving to Florida, and they literally moved within blocks of us, okay, to help my mom keep an eye on us. I didn't know at the time. They thought in their minds, because of what my dad did, that somebody was trying to abduct me, military or espionage kind of stuff. That's why the police dog. That's why the locks. That's why the grandparents. It was a big deal.
Let me interject a little bit because I know this is a very layered story. What I want you to do, Dolly, is go into a little bit more detail about your father's background in the military, because that will invariably connect to the journey that you've gone on. I'm trying to think of another way of saying it, but I think it's important that you perhaps share a little bit more of your father's background in the military, and then maybe go into how it connects down the line.
My father was known to be a genius. They had tested him and realized that his IQ was off the charts, and they wanted him to go to OCS. He was an 82nd Airborne Ranger trained on Fort Benning. Okay, and he developed, because of my grandfather. My mother's father was an architectural engineer. Okay. And he worked for the government, and he knew that my dad had talent, and he started putting my dad on drawing boards, and my dad started drawing. Well, my dad always wanted to be an architect anyway. He knew he was going that way. My father has a learning disability, big one, and he never went to college. He taught himself everything he knows. That's phenomenal. And the military realized it. So they started putting him in charge of very interesting things that I don't know a whole lot about, but was sensitive, that Korea, Indochina, the Korean missile crisis, I mean, the Cuban Missile Crisis, all of that's going on all around us all this time. He was also taking state boards in the state of Florida to become a registered architect without the degree, which was not controversial then. It's controversial now, but they let him do it. He passed the first time and actually used his drawings for 4 municipal buildings or projects in Miami. Seriously used them. They started, the state of Florida, along with the military, started using him as an architect at that time. He also was studying how to do aeronautical engineering and things like that. And he was introduced to NASA at that time. It's in the 60s. And he started working for NASA on the space shuttle project. It was long before it launched, but they were, working on it, developing it, and he became part of that. So that's what was going on. So there was a lot that he was being watched for. Okay. A lot, a lot. And I didn't know it. I was a kid. Who knew, And then he's got this kid who's developing abilities that nobody understands. One of the things that they realize is that I'm psychic and I can hear you think. And I would tell you what you're thinking. I would answer your question before you asked me. That drove my mother crazy. I was telekinetic. Things moved around me. I scared my aunt half to death. They came to visit us, my aunt and uncle and my 2 cousins at the time, and 3 actually, 3. Harold was a baby. And my aunt was mad at my cousin Sharon, who's like a couple of years older than me, but she was slow. She was slightly mentally retarded. This person I grew up knowing my whole life, and I loved her and fiercely protected her. And when my aunt started yelling her, the doors to my closet in my bedroom opened up because she was sitting on the bed with me, and everything in the top of the closet flew at my aunt's head. And she ran screaming out of the house. And my mom's like, gotta stop. Can't do that. Don't do it. It's like, no, calm down. She's not going to hurt her. It's not up to you to decide. And yeah, I had to learn that. I'm still telekinetic. If I get really upset about something,
Sure.
it
Yeah.
happens. I have
I
no
believe
control.
that. We know that this is, people, I think they call it the streetlight syndrome, where they can turn off devices
Yeah. My dad played a game with me about that. We'd be in the car going somewhere and we'd come to a red light. He'd say, blow the light out.
mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't understand what he meant. And he said, if you blow on the light, you think to turn it green. And I would make it. First, it took me 3 or 4 blows and it would turn green. And then it took me less than 1. And we had just gotten to the light. He saw I turn red and it would just automatically turn green. He used to do it to me all the time. Come on, let's do this. I could turn on street lights. I could turn the house lights on and off. Yeah.
But
He,
what about your father? And how would he know to sort of train you in that way? Did he have that proclivity himself?
yes, my father was psychic as all.
Okay, so now we're making a little bit of a connection. This is
Yeah.
what, I love the dot connecting, and there's,
Yeah.
as I said, everyone, this is a very layered story, but
Right.
I'm trying to establish some
Yeah.
synergy in how this all connects, and how because we're going to talk about bringing in the alt government, as you've called them, and military industrial complex, and
Right.
I think your father's story is relevant to all of this, so I'll
Yeah.
let you take it from there.
He wanted,
Continue.
they encouraged me. My mother didn't like it, but they both encouraged me to be free with what I was able to do. My mother was terrified of it at times and really didn't like it. And she didn't, I think she was terrified of what people thought. So I was cloistered a lot and I was kept away from people a lot. Okay. We went to church, we sang in the choir, but we'd go home right away and be at home. And we lived in a place where I didn't have a whole lot of friends or know a lot of people. They had their things that they did, and they weren't overtly hermiting everybody, but I was controlled, okay, in what people knew and didn't know about me. My parents were psychic together. I mean, I watched them perform. things that were normal for me to watch, and my friends were like, "What?"
Like
You know,
what? What kind of things did they do?
like one day we were in the kitchen, we're cooking dinner, and you know how it is in Florida with the weather, okay? And my mother suddenly looked up and she looked around the room and she said, "Bob, did I tell you to bring your umbrella today?" "Yes, I did." "Don't forget it in the car. Don't leave the car without the umbrella. It's going to be bad." Now, my dad was always wearing either a uniform or a very expensive suit that nobody wanted to replace, okay, if he got messed up. And he came home about an hour late that night. He walked in the door, and the very first doggone thing he said to her was, "Thank you for reminding me about the umbrella." And I went, "When did she remind you?" And he said, "Oh, she thought it about an hour ago, 2 hours."
She thought it? Is that what you said? Okay, yeah, so there was a telepathic connection between the
And I was
2 of
like,
them.
"Okay, all right, that's cool." My mom, when I was a teenager, she had one friend that knew I was psychic. There was no way to hide it. She was around a lot. And one day she said, "Come here, I want you to show her something." I'm like, "Okay." She said she has an object. She put it in my hand and she said, "Tell us about this object." Okay. And I sat down and I started talking about it and told her everything about it. And she was like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "I don't understand what you're asking me." Nobody, I wasn't told the syntax of what I was doing. I was just knew I could do it.
You just knew you could do it, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when the first time I ever heard the word psychometry come out. She says, "You have psychometry like crazy. Oh my God." She said,
Yeah.
"Can you feel people?" And I said, "Yes." She says, "Can you hear them?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Do you do it all the time?" And I said, "No, it's uncomfortable." And it's uncomfortable for me. I can't, it's none of my damn business. When you hear people thinking, you hear things you don't want to hear
Sure,
sometimes. And
absolutely.
when you feel feelings that you don't want to feel. And I've learned to put the wall down on it, turn it off, or
Right, that's important, yeah,
turn the volume down on it.
yeah.
And she said, "You should do some stuff with that and everything." And I just cringed when she said it. It makes me cringe, okay? And I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure that's what I want to do." Well, by then, when she did that, I was 15, 16, and I already knew what I was doing. I already had contact enough that I know which way I was going. And I just said, "It's okay. I'm good." You know, I said, "There are plenty of people like me out there. Go to somebody like that." You know,
Right.
um, yeah.
I want you to now start folding in your conscious recollection of contact with non-human intelligence. You talk about the experience at 10 months where you saw the light coming in the lavalier blinds, but when did you understand that you were in, forgive the cliche, constant contact with, beings from elsewhere?
I was almost 6. I was about 5 and a half, and I was out in front of the house, and we have these huge, uh, gumbo limbo trees, okay? There's another name for ficus trees, okay? And they have vines that come down, and they have big berries that you can mush up and make dye with, and, they're very shady. Beautiful. I love to hear the leaves blowing in the wind, and I was laying on the ground, just relaxing. It had been a long day for me already. And I'm looking at the clouds, and all of a sudden I see this umbrella coming down out of the sky. And I'm thinking, what the heck? Now, mind you, I had just seen Mary Poppins like the week before with my dad down at the Coconut Grove Playhouse and a movie theater. And I'm looking at an umbrella, and it kind of looks like her umbrella, but it's slowly rotating. And I'm thinking, wow. But then I look, where's the thing coming down, and where's the handle? Where's the parrot? You know? And I hear music in my head, and I'm just mesmerized. I mean, wow. And then I blank out for a second, and I come to, and I'm somewhere else, and I'm sitting practically in the lap of this woman who is ginormously tall. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, huh, uh, different. You look different. Not bad, but different. And she smiled at me. And the next thing I know, she's saying who she is to me. She says, "I'm related to you. We're related to one another. And I'm going to be with you when you're on board with us." And my brain click, 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 click. And I went, "Oh yeah, I've been like this before, haven't I?" I was not remembering all the time. I knew it had happened. It's like a memory, like a dream. Okay. But this was dead up, full physical, full on real to me. My brain was no problem remembering this. And she said, "You call me mama. I'm your liaison." Okay. And she said it just like that. I understood what she meant. And she said, "When you're with us, I'm with you always." I'm like, okay. And next thing I know, I'm in my house. It's a big ranch, okay, and I'm in a part of the ranch that I should not have been able to get to without my mother seeing me
Once
get up.
again, yeah.
And she walked by and she, "How'd you get in here?" And I don't know what to say to her. I'm not going to tell her. No, 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 no. My mom freaked out for everything I ever did. This was big. And I just said, "I came in. You didn't see me. I walked right by you." And she knows when I'm lying. She's psychic, and she just went, hmm. And that's when I learned to cover myself completely and make sure that if I'm with them, you got to make sure that you don't scare my mother to death, because I knew she was being scared to death by it. And I begged them, no. Okay.
Why was your mother scared, so frightened, Dolly?
Because it meant that she was not going to have a kid who was normal, not to the world, not to anything. Okay. That I was going to go in a direction that she was not going, and that she had no control over whatsoever. I had a mother who was fiercely in love with being a mother after having 6 years of no babies and then a baby and then another one. You know, she lost two. She lost one right after me, and then another one. They pulled her uterus at that point because she collapsed. She wasn't built for having kids. Okay, and she was mom, and it bugged her a lot. She also had a memory of an experience when she was a child, and it freaked her out. She talked about it to me when I got older, and I understood, "Oh my God, you had contact." But she went, "No, no, no, no."
So
And
she was in denial of the
yeah, she
reality of
didn't
her own
it
experience.
at all. And when things keep happening around you that you can't explain, it freaks you out. She finally, when I was an adult and she was an adult, much older, it's right after my father passed away. Um, I had they came for me one night in the middle of the night, and she was up for some reason, didn't go to sleep or didn't stay asleep, and she got up and she went, "Oh my God, what's going on?" You know, and I'm like, calm down, it's okay." And they left for that reason, because they realized she's not going to stay down, and she freaked out. She saw the light. She went into the field with me and realized, "Oh my God, what?" You know. And afterwards we talked about it, and I said, "Mom, this is real, more real than you understand." And she said, "I know it's real." And she got really upset about it, and she said, "I worry about you. I worry about where you're going with this." And I said, "Don't worry about it. I'm a big girl. I can take care of myself." You know. And she passed away through like 2.5, 3 years right after that. She was right after
Mm.
that. And that was hard, but I was glad she came to, at least we got to talk about it. You know, it was hard.
Was there anything she felt she needed to share with you prior to her passing that she hadn't shared before?
Yeah, basically that she had had that experience. She had sort of described it to me. My great grandparents lived on we call it the Gulf of America now. Okay. They had a house there, and she used to go and stay with them a lot. And she was out on the lanai. They had an enclosed, screened in lanai. And when it was really hot, because there was no air conditioning when she was a little girl, she'd sleep out there. And that's when it came up over the water, and she saw it coming down, and she saw that it had plasma coming off it. And she remembered the 10 Commandments, and she said it looked like the hand with the dripping plasma coming down. I'm like, okay, I got it. Don't, but it scared her. I mean, it frightened her. She also killed a cow once, thinking it was an alien. She was out, Crockett's hunters. Okay. She had a gun, and she was like 8 or 9 years old. She's out with the gun. She's going to shoot a pheasant or something, or quail, actually quail in Florida. And she thought she saw a UFO or something, and she killed one of the neighbor's cows. That was not a good thing. That went down very badly. Okay. And I laughed at that one. I thought that's funny. And I said, "Why did you shoot at it?" And she said, "I didn't want to deal with it." I went, "Okay." And I said, "Did you ever
Do you
tell
think
her?"
that could have been a screen? Well, let's see. She thought she saw a
Yeah.
cow, or she saw a
Yeah.
cow and killed it. Could it have
Yeah.
been a screen memory?
Fear. Well, I believe that the fear she put into it what she wanted it to be. You know what I'm saying? She how do I put this? She killed a real cow. So something was really there. It was the cow. Okay. But she might have had a memory of something overlaying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I think that's what happened. So yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
Dolly, why do you think whomever these beings are uh, wanted involvement or wanted to bring your family into this level of contact over so many years, and why?
I was actually told, it was explained to me eventually, when I finally came to myself and completely woke up to it. I was 14 and I kept thinking, I'm either crazy, completely, profoundly insane, or this is real. And there was no way. Sorry, there was no way I was going to be able to uh, deal with it unless I came to it myself. In other words, I have an eidetic memory, and it bothered me that my memory wasn't all in one line. Okay, I have personal memory that is so extensive. I remember everything. Okay, and if I view it, if I see it, whatever, it's locked in my head. I know what day it is. I know what time it is. I know what's going on in the world. I know everything about that day, and I mean, talk about it. My brother used to grill me all the time. He couldn't believe I could do that. And I was out of my mind about it. And I thought, okay, so the next time I have an experience, I'm going to not allow myself to lose my personal memory. Okay. And I'm not going to allow being worried about it or afraid of it for whatever reason to negate what was going on for me. And it happened. I finally got my chance. They came for me. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning about. And when the light hit me, I panicked because I saw the craft. I mean, I watched it come down out of the sky. There were a bunch of them up there, and they paired off in twos. And two came down over our area. One went to Dade, Miami-Dade, Dade near Dadeland Mall. Okay, and the other one came out to where we were. It was east of us, and we were out west of it. And when it came down, I watched it come down over the back of our house. And I had a big tree. It's one of those trees with the leaves that fold up, if you touch them.
Mhm.
It was a
Mhm.
huge one. No. And the tree was doing this, whipping around. And there was no real wind or anything. And I'm like fascinated. I'm looking at this thing. Now, mind you, that I have a huge history of knowing what jets are, knowing what craft are. I knew about the space shuttle. I mean, my dad, we used to go to the airport and watch the jets come in. We used to go to the base and watch that come in. I knew what Harriers were. I mean, I knew. Okay. I'm like, what is that? And I'm staring at it, memorizing it inch by inch by inch until I got to the top of it. And I realized there's 2 ports and there's a person in each side, each port looking me dead in the eye. And I realized, oh my God, they see me. And I freaked out and I was going to dive under my bed. And that's when the light hit me hard.
Hey everyone. Just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying this content and you want more, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. This tells YouTube you want to see more higher journeys, and that helps spread the word. It's one of the best ways you can support our work. Thanks so much. Now, let's get back to the show.
And I froze. It wasn't because they froze me. It's because fear can do that to you. You can just simply can't move. I was frozen in fear. And I saw this stream of energy coming down in the light, and those two beings come down the stream of light and into the room with me. And one of them came over to me and took me by my hand and put my hand on top of their hand, and the whole room changed at that moment. It went opaque. It became very white light instead of blue white light. And I felt weird, almost nauseous from it. And they took me up this energy ribbon. And I saw my ceiling coming and I thought, this isn't going to be good. Oh, hell. And that scared the hell out of me again. But we went right through it. I could smell the ceiling. I could smell the particles in the rafter. I could smell the tar. I could smell the air when we got outside the roof. I went through the tree. I could smell the tree. This thing went up along this craft, and it didn't go in it. It went up alongside it, and there was a doorway, a hatch open. I couldn't see the hatch because there's an opening. And he shoved me in at that
Who?
point.
Who shoved you in?
The being who I was with, put my hand on his hand, its hand. Okay. I now know what he was. He was an AI, a biological AI, little teeny gray. Okay.
Okay. All
And I
right.
put it on my keister. And they came in behind me, both of them. And this opening shut behind us. And I felt the difference in the air pressure immediately. And I'm looking and I look up and there's Mama sitting right there.
Your mother?
No,
Oh,
Mama
Mama, who
is
you saw
Mama.
under the
All
umbrella.
7'2" of her, tall gray. And my brain went, it exploded. I realized, oh my God, can you imagine having amnesia and then suddenly something triggering you and you go, oh crap, I know.
Mhm.
I had an emotional response to it so great, I puked right into my nightshirt. I mean, puked my guts up. I think going up in that beam of energy had started it, and then I was over. I puked, and she directed the two grays, the little grays, to take me and clean me up. And they took me. I got rid of my clothes. I took. They wiped me, helped me wipe down. They gave me an energy shower. Okay, and then they hand me a smock, like a smock dress to put on, and it was blue. And I start shaking, and I realized that I'm uncontrolled. My teeth were clattering, and I was like, and I'm staring at them, and I know who they are and what they are, and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's real. Oh my God, it's real. And I'm cold. Okay, and I realized I'm in shock. Okay, and they gave me something to drink, and it calmed me down, and I started to warm up a little bit, and they took me back to her, and I still wasn't okay. And she said, walk her, get her to walk around, show her. Okay. And they started walking me around, and I went on 3 different levels. I went into the bottom level of it, the mid level, and the top level of it. And I saw that I had a space in there, a little room, a cubby room. Okay. And it had a bed, and it had a cup, like a little indentation into the wall. And my brush was sitting right there. It's a brush I thought I lost that my mother nearly killed me for, because it was a fuller brush. They're very expensive even then. And because I had really long hair at the time. And I
So
was
you
like,
had belongings there. You had belongings there. I want to ask you a question, because there's so many little anecdotes that you're sharing, and I want to try to bring this to big picture. But one of the things I hear from so many experiencers that have said that they've been on board is that once they're inside the craft, it appears or feels much larger than what they believe themselves to be viewing when they're outside of that. Outside of the craft. Did you get that impression as well, that it was
yeah,
disproportionate in
yeah,
terms of the size on the inside?
yeah.
Describe what you saw, if you would,
Mhm. Well,
or have seen quite a
can
few
explain,
times.
yeah, I can explain to you the difference. When you see a craft on the outside, you're not looking at the entire craft. It can array and only show you what it wants you to see of it. Okay, you don't understand how immense this vehicle is. Okay, it's ginormous, but they only bring you into the sight of what they want you to see. They don't always show everybody exactly what they look like, and there are reasons for that. When you get inside, though, the reality of it you go, oh my God, it's huge in here. And it was. They do have the ability, though, to expand like a ceiling. When I was on board, they're high up. There's no doubt about it. She can walk freely in there. But when Mama's not on board, they're way lower. And when I'm on board, they bring them up for me too, because I'm tall. I'm 5'8". Okay. At that time, I was almost 5'9" at 14. I've lost an inch because of injuries. That they can do. They can also bring in accommodations that you might need, like a chair to sit on, or a bench, or a table, things like that. They can give you what you need to be comfortable. Okay. And the craft does it. The craft actually brings it up, and it molds in front of you, and you see it. When I realized that blew me away. It's also weird to walk around in them, because it's not like walking on heavy metal. You feel like you know those rubber mats that are real spongy, you
Mhm,
know, and you're barefoot on them and they're just really comfortable. Oh, wow. It feels like that. The walls are like that. There are no corners on craft. Everything is rounded, rounded. You can't hurt yourself on anything. And the lights, the walls emit light. Everything emits light on the inside. There are no lights that you can see, but the damn thing is lit up like a firecracker.
I've heard other people say that, describe it that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can array on the inside as well. I have a preference. I have a color palette preference. My emotions immediately will change being in an environment. Like if you put me in a hot red room, I am not a happy human being. Or a black room, no, don't like it. But I love blues, and I love actually blue grays and greens and gold and white. Okay. And whenever I was on board, the craft would array for me like that. I would see the walls in those colors. Okay. The floors would, like if I got lost, there would be a symbol that come up to show me, point me in the direction I need to go. Until I learned the craft completely when I was a child, I remember seeing the floor light up and go this way. Okay. Oh, okay. The two grays that handled me were AI, not the kind of AI that you would perceive it to be. They are intelligent, designed, physical, biological
entities.
Yes.
I believe some have called them the Ebens.
Yeah.
That's a name that's used.
Yeah. You can turn them
Extraterrestrial biological entities. Yeah.
Right.
But
They
with
are
an AI, a synthetic component to them.
right.
Yeah.
They don't think for themselves. They do what they're programmed to do, and you can turn them off and they'll stop. They'll go rigid, and you can almost stack them up in a room. I'm not kidding you. I've seen one be turned off. I know how to turn them off. They have no avarice. They have no hate, no nothing. They don't show any emotions. They'll mirror you. Once they're around you a lot, they can mirror your emotions, but they have no emotions, nothing. Okay. When I was little, I called them thing one and thing two. Okay. They were mine, assigned to me. And when I got older, I just called them frickin' Frock, the Bobbsey twins. And that was my name for them. They didn't react to that at all. They knew who I was talking to when I was talking to them. It just, anything I got from them was only answers or directions of what was going on or whatever I needed. But if I was in trouble, they attended me instantaneously. They were on me in seconds. They knew what I need. They anticipated. They read minds, is what I'm trying to tell you. They can hear you thinking. They're telepathic.
Absolutely.
And that is very, very cool, actually. They'll even joke with me now. Okay.
I was just going to say, how long did they stay in your life? Are they still?
Always. They're
still there.
Yeah.
And are these do you believe these to be the same?
Oh, I know they are.
The same.
Yeah, they identify for me. They know who I am. I know who they are. I can tell. It is interesting to me that I was given the two, but then I realized that they all have their helpers, and these just were attended to me. So during my excursions with them, they were always with me, and they learned me. They learned all my quirks. They know who I am. They know what makes me laugh. They know what I like to listen to. I mean, it's like they really figured me out. And so there's nothing I can't do or not or do that they are not already on board, understand, and if I'm in a jokey mood, they'll joke with me. They'll say jokes that they know I'm going to laugh at, just in camaraderie, which is weird, but yeah.
Another question. Do you feel, Dolly, that the abilities, the proclivities that you have may be in part or in full due to your connection, lifelong and maybe even previous incarnations with these entities? Where do you feel these abilities came from?
Actually, I was born with them. We all have them. You have them. I have
sure,
them.
But yours is off the charts, obviously. So do you believe that
my family was bred to it? They've followed my family for eons. They've known who my family was all the time. And I was told, like with my parents, I asked them, how did you meet? My dad said, I met your mother in a choir in Columbus. I went to church there when I was in the military, and I saw the back of her head and fell in love with her. And I don't know why that happened. I was like, oh. And he said, when she turned around, it was all over for me. It was only her, out of nowhere. Now he was 20 years old. She was 16.
Mm.
They were married 3 months later. It was mutual attack connect. They were married for 68 years
Wow.
before they died at the hip. And my dad said he swears that they kept him going till he met her. In other words, he was looking for a partner, but he never found one. And a lot of guys in the army were already getting married at 18 back then. You know how it was. And he said, no, no, no. He waited for her. And he said, I swear to you, it was like I was for her and she was for me. And he said, in our family, it's like that. If you hear all the stories of all the people I'm related to, weirdness goes on with that.
Yeah.
It's weird. And
Yeah.
I got an interesting pedigree because of it.
I was
And
just going to say, I find it interesting that, not to cut you off, but I wanted, as I'm watching this pattern emerge, that it seems as if your father was guided by an invisible hand toward your mother, perhaps to come together in union to create you.
yep,
There's something about the DNA, it seems, of
and-
both your parents
yep,
that was needed to create the likes of Dolly Saffron.
yeah,
It's, I can only assume, obviously, but it seems like there's an intelligent design
right,
behind how you came about.
right.
And
Now,
I want to, I'm sorry, go ahead. And then I
I'll
want
give
to
you
kind
for
of,
instance, because we are the product of genetics. True, we have potential, but then it's our parents who take up the reins of that and encourage it or deny it. And I grew up in a family, as you know, like you, that encouraged my abilities, that encouraged me to be who I am, that didn't tell me what to do, but gave me free reign and all opportunities that I could to employ who I was going to become. And
Mhm.
that's the most important thing on this planet. People don't realize that parenting is not a hands off job, it is hands on. And you have to give your children opportunities to be who they should be, not what you want them to be, not what the world wants them to be or expects them to be, who
Absolutely.
they are. And that's what I was afforded, literally afforded that
That's a
in
beautiful
high
thing.
percentage. Okay.
Yeah. I want to spend the remainder of our time. This has gone by so quick. We've got a bit of time left, but I want to now take our audience down a little bit of a rabbit hole, Dolly,
Mhm.
insofar as why. Well, first of all, that what you call the alt government has had and perhaps still has a vital interest in the trajectory of your family. I want you to talk a little bit about that to the extent that we can on this venue. And then I'd love for you to talk about why. Why is it that there's been such an ardent interest from that perspective? And also why many contactees find themselves visited, let's just say, by a variety of unsavory characters. But let's start with your story. Why do you think, or not why, but how is it that uh, these factions, let's just say, became aware and involved in what was happening in your life, in your family's life?
I hit their radar at about the age of 5. My father knew that I was psychic and he was trying to figure out how psychic I was because I was exceeding everybody in the family. And he heard about a program on Homestead Air Force Base that he was attached to that were testing children and other adults. And he took me in for the testing. Within, I don't know, 20 minutes of me being there with them and going through their tests, they realized, oh, we want to pull her in. And they asked my father if they could keep me for a couple of days. They were going to do EEGs and stuff like that. He would not allow them to do an encephalogram or anything like that. He said no invasive, nothing. But you can do the EEGs. They wanted to know about my physical health, things like that. And so he allowed me to stay there for a few days to go through it. Now, in the meantime, a general who knew my dad and they were very good friends found out that I was in there and he told my dad, get me out now. I was in there about 3.5 days when he did that. And my dad went in there fully uniformed, wearing a sidearm, and had orders from the general to pull me. He walked in the door and he said, hand her over right now or there will be trouble. They did. And he walked out with me. And I had stuff with me that that had been brought to me. We left it. Nope. Not even waiting for that. Get her out. And he got me out. What happened when I was there was that they realized I was tremendously psychic and they were trying to figure out if I could remote view, if I was psychic, sentient psychic, what type of abilities I had. And they paired me up with another little girl there that I remember her. I met her again uh, years and years and years later, and it wasn't good what happened to her. As I got older, I realized that they were after me when I was almost 10 years old. I was walking home from school with my friend, and this man came up behind us. He was wearing a trench coat, he had a cane, and I had a lunchbox with me. And he said, "Oh, I love that lunchbox. That's really cool. I have one like that." And he starts talking to us. Now I'm already trained not to let this happen to me ever. Okay, I was already taking judo at 5. Okay, and I grabbed her by the hand and said, "Run!" And we ran. We gazelled away from him. I made sure she got to where she was going, and then I hauled myself home. When I got there, I came in the door freaking out. My mom got my dad there, and next thing I know, we've got security on my brother and I. We were never alone after that. We had special security following us everywhere. They were even at school following us. The fences went up, the dogs came in, bigger dogs. I'm not kidding. And it was like,
Why though? What to what
they
extent?
were trying to snatch me. They
For
wanted,
what reason you think
because I have abilities that they
that they
want
could
really
use?
bad. Yeah. Sadly, uh, it
And
is.
apparently, it was this general that knew
Yeah.
what the full extent of this program
Right.
was and tipped your father off.
Now, the other thing that happened that never left me was when I was 7. My father came home after being gone a while, and we were sitting at the table. He was very quiet. And the next thing we know, 10 minutes into dinner, he started breaking every glass object in the house. Literally.
Your
Every.
father did.
Yeah. Not screaming, not yelling. He just got up and he started smashing the kitchen first. He took the metal door into the garage, which was transformed into one of his studios, and ripped the door off by the handle, a completely metal door. He went into the dining room and smashed everything. He went into living room and smashed everything. Now,
But
my mom,
wasn't angry. You said he
nope,
wasn't angry. Was
my
he
mother,
speaking?
nope, nothing, just smashing. My mom went, room now. And I grabbed my brother and we ran to my room. I shut the door, I locked it, and I went into my closet with him and shut the door. And we sat at the bottom of my closet, just like, oh my God, we listened to it for an hour. Another hour went by or so. I heard sirens. I heard people talking, and then all of a sudden it got quiet again, and then a knock on my bedroom door, and I opened it, went and let her in. It was my mom's best friend, Marilyn, saying, "Come on, get your stuff. You and your brother, you're going to come stay with me." And when I walked through the house, they had cleared a path for us because there was glass everywhere. And I was like, oh my God. And we stayed with Marilyn and her family for about a week while my mother rectified things. And
And
my
where was your father during this time?
he was hospitalized, military hospital.
What do you think happened, Dolly?
I think I know. We talked about it later in life. He had reached the end of his rope. He was had been, you know, when you work for a government that, and you've got NDAs everywhere, okay, and you know that what you're doing is sensitive, and you know what the truth about what life really is, and you can't talk about it sometimes, and the threat to your family, okay, because they'll kill your entire family, they don't care, and you know that. uh he cracked, he went nuts, it made him lose his crop, and he was hospitalized for about a month before we were allowed to see him. And when we went, I was told, don't ask him anything about what happened, don't bring any of that up, no weird questions, just tell him how you are and you love him. I was like, okay, I can do that, you know. And my brother was like, when I got there, there was a lobby in front of his door, and it had chairs, and there were military people sitting there, guards. And they unlocked the door and let us in, and went in with us into the room. And he looked like I've never seen my dad in my life. He had lost a lot of weight. He was pale. He was different. And he told us he loved us. They were watching us. They were watching how he was going to react, how we would react. And about 2 weeks after that, he came home. Life was very strained after that for a while. There was getting used to life again with him in the house and everything. My great grandparents were living with us. It was very weird. Um, I can't even begin to tell you how you compartmentalize your emotions when shit like this happens. Excuse my French. Okay. I learned to sanction myself and how I feel and how I react and how I emote to things. Everything taught to me then was to not react to anything, to stand back away from it and look at it for what it really is and not react emotionally to it. Not at all. Keep your stuff to yourself, keep it together, and react later when you're in private. Uh, I adopted that philosophy in my life, and it took me into my adulthood. Uh, I didn't ask him again until I was in my 20s, mid 20s. And it's because my mom called me up and she said, I need to know what he's saying. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, your dad's talking in his sleep. And I said, what do you mean? She says, he's speaking French. I'm not fluent in French at all. I took French in high school, but I could pick some words out. And I came over and spent the night with them. And I woke up because I could hear him fighting something or yelling and screaming something. She was out of the room. Nobody stayed in the same room with my dad when we didn't wake him up. That was a rule. Don't touch him. Nothing. When I was a little kid, don't touch your father. You're going to get hit. Okay. And I hear him screaming at somebody in French. And the words that I was hearing were making me nervous as hell. And I looked at her and I said, you don't want to know what he's talking about. I'm barely aware of what he's talking about. I don't want to know what he's talking about. And she said, why? And I said, Mom, it's not good. And I said, it has nothing to do with anything you want to know or I want to know. We're not going to know. And she said, okay, all right. And he was taken to a doctor then, and they started working with him about it. And he took a new type of sleep aid after that calmed him down for a while before he gave that one up. And he, to the day he died, he still had those weird emotional arguments with something and someone. I became vastly aware of the truth of it, though, and after that, because what he was teaching me when I was young, I realized, oh my God, it's real. I know what he's talking about now. I understand it.
Teaching you what? The psychic abilities or not?
No, the reason we are going through with what we're going through now. He used to get mad at me. I was in ecology when I was in high school. I loved ecology. I was saved the planet. Okay. And I used to blame things on us and everybody. And he said, a lot of this is not what you think it is. And he finally brought me a book. He said, read this book. And I did. And my eyes were open. I was like, oh no, this is serious. Okay. I was already taking astronomy lessons at that, before that. I was already scientifically inclined and doing other things that I understood what was coming. Okay. But it solidified me. And then I put two and two together and realized why he freaked out when I was a kid, why he wasn't allowed to talk about it, and why he died holding secrets that, quite frankly, shake me to the core of my bones. Because it involves a part of humanity that I cannot sanction in my mind. Okay, it's a part of our people, how they think, ego, power, control, those kinds of things that are just so wrong. And you can't do anything about it because they are in control. I know that Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex when he left. And he had doggone good reason why. He was already embedded in it. He knew it existed. It started with Truman, okay? And he couldn't handle it. Nobody could at that point. It was already, da-da-da-da, we're in control. So it is worldwide now. My father was part of that. My father worked inside that machine. And I know a lot that he did and that I would never voice now. It would end up in death in my family, and we can't go there, okay? But it's serious, and what I can talk about, I do talk about. And it is profound to me. That's what was going on. And when he realized that I was doing what I was doing, uh, he had two reactions to it, actually. He was profoundly happy, grateful that it was happening, but it also made him cry to the core of the being, because it puts me in a very bad place with what goes on in the world and what I can say about it. And I'm alone now. They're all gone.
I was
Okay.
just going to ask, your parents are gone. What about your brother?
He's gone as well. He
He's
died in
gone as well.
2021. My younger brother's gone. He died of COVID. Um, it is
I'm
sad.
sorry. I'm sorry.
It was hard. It was really hard. That was, he was the only other human being I had that was like me, you know? And uh, this has divided my family greatly. Okay. Uh, Parts of my family are horrified that I'm speaking and won't have anything to do with me now, which is okay, I guess. I don't mind. Everybody has to live their life. Everybody has to be who they're going to be. And I can't control how you feel about anything. All I can do is bring the truth out as I know it and understand it, and what proof I can bring, and move on, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. How deep does Symmetry, the book, go into what you just explained, Dolly, in terms of what your father knew, how he responded to it, and perhaps what may have been his demise, led
Uh,
to his demise?
Fairly deeply, and
Okay.
not I didn't unpack it. I just gave the information.
Mhm.
We're going to unpack it in the next book. We're getting close. People need to know the truth. Really need to understand why. Um, it is. I feel like I'm in a big ocean in a little teeny pea boat, and I'm throwing shrimp in information,
Mm.
and the whole world has uh, is either going to see it or not. They're either
Absolutely.
going to understand it or not. All I can do is what I can do myself, me, myself and I, and just be happy that I'm able to help try anyway. You know,
I don't think you're alone in that, and we haven't really named it per se, but look, people, we know that there is so much that's been hidden for millennia, and many people feel, Dolly, that we are indeed at the precipice of the, as they say, the proverbial scum rising to the top, and in order to be scraped off, but it's bumpy along the way. So I dare say you're not alone to whatever extent it is that you have learned that you need to share. I have a feeling it connects with other people and their urgency in wanting to share, and hope that more people will
I'm not,
wake up to
that's right. I'm
that.
not the only
So
one talking. That's right.
yeah. Um, I want to, first of all, we are going to go next door, y'all. You know what I always do? We go over here. Dolly, you're a first time guest. So, when I go like this, that means we're going over here. I
Okay.
want to go to Patreon, and I want to talk about, we haven't really, we've been listening to your story, and it's an amazing story. And I know there's many more layers to it, but overall, and I want to end on this and bringing this full circle, and how all of the shenanigans that you and your family have gone through are connected to what we call the abduction phenomenon. Where is it? Where is the connect point between the extent to which the alt government is involved and the phenomenon itself? And I want to go to Patreon in our after show segment and talk about the state of abductions right now. Are they still happening? Have they waned a bit? Are they ramping up? We'll leave that for the after show. But I want to, for our remaining minutes, just give me an idea of well, first of all, we touched on, not touched on, we got into the fact that this is an intergenerational phenomenon that happened in your family, and as many of you know out there, that I gave my keynote lecture at Contact in the Desert, based around the idea that intergenerational or familial contact is far more common than we know. I'd love to get your, and then by the way, Dolly was a part of that research that I did, so I thank you so much, Dolly. But I want to get your sense for how common do you feel familial or intergenerational contact encounters are? Is it is ha- were you have you been able to meet other families or other individuals that come from families that may have had similar experiences?
Before I came out, I only knew of one, and I've lost contact with this person. Necessary to lose contact. I know this person is operating, and that's good. Um, After contact, I've started running into people strangely because I've been interviewed or talked to people or met them, and I realized, oh my God, here we go. You know, and I'm related to some of them, profoundly related to some of them, which really was amazing to me. And we all have the same issues. We all have the same type of abilities. We all have work that we're doing. We've all followed paths not exactly identical to one another, but we're on the path. And it's to bring awareness, it's to bring enlightenment, it's to bring
Right.
the truth out. And that blows me away. Contact for civilization on this planet has been probably more widespread than you understand. There are people who said 1 in 40. I guarantee you it's 1 in 3.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. I've gone as far as to say all,
Yeah,
all
pretty much. If they
maybe
can, they do.
mostly unconscious, no
They're aware of
recollection, but
everybody. Yes,
yeah,
they are aware of
yeah.
everybody. Generational contact is widespread. You have to understand that we're literally all related to one another.
Mhm.
There's no delineation between our genetic codes. We're all, some of us are more closely related, but we are in the same gene pool as each other. We're the same. Okay. And that is something that people don't think about. They tried to describe it in the Bible from Noah, the original four. From Noah, we all come, right? It's serious. We all come from one place, and we are part of ET. We're in their gene pool. They are our progenitors, and we have to face the fact that we didn't originate here. We were brought here, and it is unbelievable contact. It is, and the fact that they've suppressed it and kept you away from the total knowledge of that, or to keep you in sleep state, profoundly is weird to me, but it's happened. It's actually happened. People have been directed away from knowledge. People have been directed away from ability. People have been toxified to the point that they can't use their abilities. I mean, it's been a unbelievable road that we've all been on together, in the pot together. And I hope people understand that I'm trying to tell you that you are profoundly involved in this, all of us.
All of us, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we all have skin in the game is what I like to say. We all have skin in the game. Well, we're going to take this over. Obviously, we're going to just continue this conversation, and maybe we can kind of, wind our way into the idea of abductions. Are they still happening or not? Because it's all a rabbit hole for sure.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, Dolly, what can I say? Thank you ever so much for sharing such intimate details of your story. And I want everyone to go get Symmetry, a true UFO story. And you can get it on Amazon. And of course, we'll have a link. In fact, I'm going to make sure to put one in post production. I'll make sure to go get the book below. And we're anxiously awaiting for part 2 to come out. Now, you told me that you can't mention the title yet. But is this part of the Symmetry? Is it a trilogy? Is it a trilogy that you're aiming for?
No, this is the
Okay.
second one, and
Okay.
it goes in depth about what the first one is alluding to, and
Okay, gotcha.
opens up everything to that, and then a little more on the side. Yep.
Where can people find out more about you?
Well, Symmetry is on Amazon. Preston Dennett wrote the book. You can also go to PrestonDennett@Weebly.com. You can find me there. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram.
Love it.
Yeah, we do the Light Gate every Monday night, Preston and I, and you can find us there. We are on UPRN and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We're on YouTube, Facebook.
You're all over the place.
Google. Yeah, we're around.
I
And
love
so
it.
you can even Google me and I'll pop in.
Oh, yes. Have done so already. That's great. Dolly, keep doing what you're doing. We're going to make sure we have a link to the book. I think it's something, and I've read not the whole book, but enough to know that I need to finish it because there's a lot going on there, y'all. So I thank you once again, and don't hang up because we're going to go right next door. And you know what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about the state of abductions. Are they happening or not? So with that, I'll say thank you so much, my dear. I appreciate you. We appreciate you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. And as always, journeyers, we appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out. And thank you for holding tight for a week or so while I was doing this other project, which I'm going to tell you about soon. I promise you that. So we'll talk to you next time. Come meet us next door, will you? And
Yes.
support Higher
All
Journeys.
right,
It's a
let's go.
good thing.
Okay.
We're going to go over there right now. All right, y'all. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye now.